So the Tanya that needs to be reconciled is a separate discussion, but let me address the actual issue. The reality of life is that we are what Chassidus calls a yesh. That's the way we're created. Which means, a yesh means substance, an independent entity that has to deal with the challenge of selfishness. When you wake up in the morning, what do you feel? Yourself. You always feel yourself first. And that's precisely the way we were created. With the kavanah, with the purpose of the entire Torah and all of Chassidus, is to take this yesh and tame it and refine it. And instead of being consumed with its own self, it should be consumed with serving God's plan and serving others. So there's nothing to be nisbal from. This doesn't mean it justifies it. It means that this is the reality of life and this is its purpose. That we all are by nature selfish. Selfish can be a mild form, it can be an extreme form. But that's exactly the challenge and the battle. When we talked earlier about Teitzei l'melchama, we live in a world where there is that battle. The battle starting with your own yesh, with your own sense of selfishness. And every choice we make is, are you going to be selfish or you're not going to be? Are you going to just indulge in a piece of food because you're hungry, or are you going to wait and say, 1 second, is it kosher? I have to make a bracha. What kind of bracha? Bracha from the word hamshacha, draw down the divine energy into it. Use the strength you gain from the food to do a mitzvah. That's the purpose of it all. In the language of Chassidus, Gedele Meises Tzadikim and Meises Shemayim V'Aretz. So Chassidus explains, there's a famous Maimon in Tafresh Pehei from the Frierdiker Rebbe and other places. What does Chassidus say? It says like this: Meises Shemayim V'Aretz, God created, is Yesh Ma'ayin, from Ma'ayin Eliki, which means not nothingness, but a divine state that is compared to existence, is beyond existence. So it's like a non-existence from the perspective of our existence. So God created from that ayin, He made a yesh. And Gedela Ma'aseh Tzadikim and Ma'aseh Sharetz, why is it greater? Because Tzadikim make from the yesh an ayin. We take the yesh of this world, the yesh of the Yetzer Hara, the yesh of the Guf and Nefesh Habam is the body and the animal soul, the yesh of the selfishness of this world, and we turn it into ayin, into bittul. Not annihilation or obliteration, channeling, harnessing, taming it, that the ani should be focused toward the ayin. Ani, so ani l'deidi, moida ani. The ani, which is the self, should be directed toward the ayin, toward higher purpose. How we do that, that's the avodah each of us has. Everyone in there, step by step. You can't do it overnight. It's maybe a lifetime of work that we do. But that's the work. So asking the question, how do you fight selfishness? That's the whole purpose of Yiddishkeit. The key thing is to recognize and identify the steps where you're at. And the more conscientious you are of it, the more you're aware of it, the better we get. And it's a lifetime work. That is the work of bittul, what Chassidus calls bittul. Sometimes it comes down to, the Rebbe gave us an approach, helping others, learning with someone else, which in turn also gives you back more. Finding things that you enjoy, that even the Nefesh Habamis enjoys, that is the best way to fight selfishness, because it's not fighting it with force, you're fighting it through enticing and through positive ways. It could even be Shalei L'Shma. Even that, you could fight selfishness, with a selfishness that provides you with even a better option than just taking care of your own selfish, inferior needs, by doing something greater, serving something greater, which is the whole purpose of every shlichus, of every mission, that you're serving something greater than yourself. Okay. Let us go to the next question. The next question is viewer discretion advised, sensitive topic, but as I've always said, we talk about blunt things, and nothing is taboo. Issues that are raised that are real, and Chassidus addresses everything. So let's address the issue of how to learn to trust my husband again. Rabbi Jacobson. Last week in conversation, my husband revealed to me that a few years ago he would watch inappropriate things. It was something he struggled with as a Chassidish bacher, embarrassed to share this with his parents or mashpia. For the past 3 years, he has not turned to that source of entertainment, and he hopes never gets into that again. This information was a bit of a shock, as I am naive. We got married 1 year ago, when I was 19. It could be maybe more than one, maybe it says 11, I'm not sure. It says 1 year, it says 1 year ago. So maybe I may be wrong. But when I was 19, I never thought my Chassidish husband ever struggled with this. My question is, how can I understand the struggle and not judge him? And how can I feel safe knowing this won't be between us? I don't want this information to separate us. This was never a topic my parents spoke to me about. Many nights I'm crying in bed, not sure how to process this information and what it means practically today. How can I not allow this to get between us and trust him when I'm out of the house and not think about it when we are together? I'm proud he stopped. He has filters for 3 years now on his phone to prevent going back to his old ways. The naive wife who needs some support and understanding. As I said, we talk about all topics. Unfortunately, this is a real topic. My heart goes out to you and to anyone else dealing with these challenges, especially if you have completely no fault of your own. But the key thing to remember is, I won't call it good news because under the circumstances, but the fact that your husband told you about this and he's saying that he's not doing it is already, we get out of the woods. And it's very important to recognize that. I'm assuming that he's told you not because you caught him, but because he himself came clean, so to speak. So the key is that in any relationship, trust is built not on perfection, but on accountability. The key thing is not to be naive. It's true. People can have setbacks. I'm not suggesting we not become vigilant, but we have to also know that people have the ability to do tshuva. That's the whole point. And especially now in this month of Elul, it's all about accountability and tshuva. So this doesn't mean that we just ignore, but forgive, anything goes. No. It means that we are accountable, and if your husband shows accountability and you can see it, without badgering him every moment and saying what's going on, but on an ongoing basis, he should be able to talk to you and you should be able to tell him, I have fears. He should be able to reassure you. And if he shows and indicates such signs of continuous growth, that's how trust is rebuilt. And indeed, this whole period in time is exactly about that. Let's not make it only theoretical. Why was Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount Sinai in the first place? Chedesh El. Because the Eden did the greatest betrayal. That is equivalent to this type of issue, which is what? They built a golden calf, Aveda Zara, after 39 days after hearing it's that Lo Yilachol Akim Achedim. You could think it's all over. No, Moshe goes back on the mountain, spends 80 days he needed. 40 days to receive the Torah, but 80 days to finally get Hashem to say, as we announce on Yom Kippur and declare right after Kol Nidre, 3 times, Salachti Kidvarecha. The Eibishter says, I've forgiven them as you have spoken. Now it took a long time. And here we're talking about Moshe and the Eibishter and they're sincere and all that, because it's not a simple matter. But it shows us, it opens up the door, the Pesach of Tshuva. So if we're going to take this seriously, let's apply it to our personal lives. No one should ever have such a challenge. And we would have been much happier it never happened. But once it happens, we learn from Moshe, and we learn from Yom Kippur, and we learn from Hashem, and we learn from Chedesh El, a tremendous lesson, that everybody is able to repair their ways. And there is hope. But it's based on accountability. This doesn't mean we forget and say, you know what, okay, big thing, we all fall, there's always hope. No. It takes work. It took 80 days. It takes work. And the work of your husband is to demonstrate accountability to you, demonstrate that he's become a better person. Not only demonstrate that given the same situation, he won't do it again, which is a condition in tshuva. And demonstrating that he's filling the void, because that's a key thing, that he does things. Fill the void, should not be alone, should not be isolated, should be filling his life with positive things, so there's no room for it in the first place. And knowing that he has to be extremely careful, because it's extremely easy to gravitate right back when you're bored, or you're desperate, or you're feeling despair, and gravitate back to this easy candy, so to speak. So all this is part of the work. You're a partner in it. A partner, I mean, not because you're at fault, but a partner who's your husband. And if he demonstrates that, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt and allow him to prove it. Now, if God forbid there's a setback, it's another story. That's not the question on the table here, and I'm not going to assume that. I'm going to assume that it's going well. And the key thing is to strengthen the relationship. And as I said, Yom Kippur made the relationship between Hashem and the Eden stronger. Why? Because there's a din, when a contract can be challenged. But once it's a challenge, and it stands an appeal, and if it stands the challenge, it says, Shtar sheyatsa lav irur, then you can't challenge it again. Because once it's been so-called broken or breached, and then you uphold it, it gets stronger than before. That's the power of tshuva. So the same thing here, even though initially we would prefer not to have this challenge, but once it's there, it can create a deeper relationship and even deeper trust, because you've seen the darkest, and yet survived that, not only survived, grown through it. And this is something you should share with your husband, be able to talk openly about it. And that's a key thing to this. And Hashem will help that if you do that, we'll have exactly the same idea of Yom Kippur. You'll be able to have a very beautiful and trusting relationship. Is it going to have some difficulties? Yes, you're going to have, I'm sure, a few nightmares here and there. And there's going to be challenges. But this is a slow process that can be mended and can be repaired and can be even stronger than ever before. I hope I did justice to this. If you have more questions, I also recommend you definitely speaking with a personal mashpia, a mentor, because some things can't be really said here. I'm speaking to a collective group here that need to be said individually, one-on-one, to get strength. And the same thing, your husband should have a mashpia, mentor. It's a condition. He must have that, because when people need strength, they need strength from somebody outside, and he should have that. And in general, as I said, filling life with much positive things is the key to best offense. The best defense is offense, like we said, Teitzei, outside of us, even things like this. And alevecha, you're always above it, and you can always grow and be stronger than any challenge that comes our way. If you want to continue this conversation, want to write more about it, please do. And I hope we don't hear any more of such challenging situations. Now let's go to one final question. What message for kids beginning school? What is the Rebbe's message for children beginning the new school year? With the school year fast approaching, what are the few most important messages for them to hear from me about succeeding in the coming year? How can I prep them to make the most out of their year? So clearly this is coming from a parent, most likely, I assume, or maybe an educator. In episode 82, I spoke about this regarding the message for educators and teachers, but let's talk about what's the message for children. And what I'm going to say is really based on the Rebbe's approach to chinuch. Of course, chinuch is a fundamental cornerstone of Yiddishkeit, one of the 10 Teitzei, and by the Rebbe spoke about it so much. I distilled it all in the book Torah Meaningful Life on the chapter on education, the unique angle. And the key thing, and this is the message that we need to tell our children, the key thing to remember is that education is not just accumulation of data and information. It's not just imparting knowledge. It's shaping a life. True chinuch, al pi Torah, chinuch al taras HaKedesh, chinuch al pi Chassidus, is shaping a life, teaching a child that you're a gift of Hashem sent to this world, your soul, with unique skills and talents, to some way shape and improve the world and make a dira b'tachtenim in the language of Chassidus with your unique way, in your unique way. And all education, whatever you'll learn, whatever class, whatever semester, whatever program, whatever it is all for that purpose. That is the single most important message to tell our children. That education at chinuch school is not just you're going to school. You're going to be trained because you are the special messenger, sent, an ambassador of God sent to this world, a shliach of the Eibishter, to make this world different, to make it a better place, to bring the geula. And the whole education you go to is precisely for that reason. Now, will this somewhat preempt and prevent the issue of the tediousness and children don't want to wake up and go to school? It may not. But the emphasis has to be that type of, take the high road, explain what is the real purpose. And it's not spelled out enough, as much as it should be, the purpose of why we really go to school in the first place. It's training, just like you train military, just like you train professionals, just like you train athletes. Training is to train how to go and use your gifts, your unique, indispensable gifts in making the world a dira b'tachtenim. I would also add that it's critical that parents don't see school as being, okay, now it's not my problem, it's the school's problem. No, it's always your problem. I don't want to say word problem. It's always your issue and concern. Because you're a parent, you're a partner with the school. As a matter of fact, you're the primary partner. And when your children see that you care, you ask them how the day was, but focus again, not just on what they're learning and how well they're doing, but on the purpose of it all. Infuse that, add that dimension, and you'll see tremendous results. Children pick up if you care. Children pick up how much you're involved and want to be involved in their shaping their souls and shaping their lives into becoming the best that they can be in fulfilling the mission that God sent them here for. Okay. And everyone should be matzliach to see their children, a lot of nachas, Yiddish nachas, Chassidish nachas in their education this year, and we should be sakazech to the gula mitzvah v'ashleima. Now let's go to the Chassidus question, and then we'll do the essays. The Chassidus question is this: Hi, you said in episode 162, which is around 15 weeks ago, that because Chassidus comes from such a high level, you can bring it all the way down to the nefesh habamis. Okay, let's first explain what I said, and then we'll get to the question. I was citing then Kuntres and Yonash Teitzei Chassidus, a classic from the Rebbe, said by the Rebbe, based on the Maimer Pada B'Shalom Tafresh Tafshin Chavov, and the sikhs of that year, Yutas Kislev, what we talked about 51 years ago, where the Rebbe, one of the magnum opus, where he talks about the Inyan of Chassidus. Chassidus is Yechida, based on that Maimer, that's the Etzem of Pnimius Atik, in the language of Chassidus and Kabbalah. That's what Chassidus is. And it was given in order to transform the world. So it comes from the highest levels. So the Rebbe then, in chapter 18 of that Kuntres, he says, because it comes from the highest levels, that's why it has the ability to even go to the Nefesh Habam as the animal soul and explain to it how Elokus, godliness, is good for it. And the Rebbe brings a footnote there, and which answers a very important question. The Gemara says, Barosile Yetzer Hara, I created him a Yetzer Hara, gave a human being a Yetzer Hara, or Barosile Teira Tavlin. And then I created Teira, Tavlin, as a spice to so-called neutralize and to weaken and elevate the soul. The animal, the Yetzer Hara. So the Rebbe asked a tremendous question. The Teira is all it is a spice? It's like a demeaning thing to say. David HaMelech was punished if he even called the Teira Zmiris, song. Because the Teira is much more than songs, Zmiris Hayalichu Kecha. It's songs for David. The Teira is Ve'eya Etzlei Amen, Oman, Shashim Lefonov, it's God's delights, it's connected to Hashem Atzmos itself. So it's somewhat demeaning to call it song. How much more so spice? And the Rebbe's answer is, that doesn't say the Teira is spice. The Teira is Takashashim Lefonov, it's the God's personal delights. But because it's so atzmizdik, it's such powerful, that's why it can come down and even be a spice to neutralize a nefesh habam. Something that's not such a high level can't achieve that. So it's not that it is a spice, it's also a spice. Because it has that power because it comes from such a high level. So here's now the question. The question asks, wouldn't that contradict what the Tanya writes in chapter 40? Aval Kabbalah ein mispashetes klal matzilus lebiyak mishakosov b'priyetz chaim. So he's quoting chapter 40, the Alter Rebbe speaks about Teira, and he says, Mikra is Pshat, Mikra reaches Asiya, talks about things in the world of Asiya. Gemara reaches the world of, Mishnah, reaches the world of Yitzira. Gemara, Talmud, reaches the world of Bria. And Kabbalah stays in Atzilus because it's Seid, it's esoteric. Translate, Kabbalah, however, affects a union revelation Atzilus that does not extend at all to the lower world, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, as it is written in Priyetz Chaim. So doesn't this contradict? They're saying that Chassidus comes all the way down and transforms this world. Thanks for the great work. So your answer, if you looked in Kuntres and Yonash Teitzei Chassidus, which is why I quote the source always, the answer is Kabbalah is Chaya. It's not Takanat Chassidus. In the four levels of Teira, you have Pshat, Remesh, Drus, Sod. Al Derech, Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara, and Sod, and Kabbalah. Al Derech. That what Pshat is in Asiya. Remez and Drush, there are two opinions. One opinion is that Remez is in Yitzira and Drush is in Bria. Another opinion that the Drush is in Yitzira and Remez is in Bria. And Atzilus is Sod, esoteric, and Taki need conditions of when to learn and how to learn. And it's not accessible to all, and it's not translated that you can apply it to your Nefesh Habamis. Barely the Nefesh Halakis can understand it. So Taka Kabbalah is relegated to Atzilus. But Chassidus is Yechida. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, those are the four levels that I just mentioned. Atzilus being Chaya, but there's higher than Atzilus. And because it's higher than Atzilus, it can reach all the way down, like we say about Sevav Kalam, because the eagle is so high up, it also goes so low. And it can affect even the Nefesh Habamis. So the answer is right there in the Kuntres itself. If you have questions in Chassidus, this is a great place, a form that you can submit them to. Again, meaningfullife.com/MyLife. Let's now go to the essays, and we shall conclude. The essays are 3 essays, as we've been doing. These are the essays that were submitted in this year's MyLife Chassidus Applied Essay Contest 2017. First essay we'll do is Eternal Issue, Making a Living, by Yosef Zukin, age 51, Oculos, General Manager, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So this essay, Making a Living, is a very interesting essay. I found it to be very comprehensive. And it addresses the issue of parnosa, of living. He says like this: pursuing livelihood is a very hard and extremely intense for most people. It is one of the main life issues in history. Much has been taught, advised, explained on the theme in Torah and elsewhere. Although the key to making a living is reserved to God alone, many factors have been related to good results and having a good parnasa or even becoming rich. In this essay, I will focus on the importance of time component in the equation of livelihood. It is based on many parts of the Torah, but always through the vantage point of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. My main objective is to contribute in two ways. Firstly, on how to become more conscious of what involves having a sustenance and consequently becoming less or not worried at all about your livelihood. Secondly, the result will be to receive blessings for a good livelihood every day and always. For this purpose, a brief summary of the steps in order to reach parnasa mindfulness is presented. He goes into an introduction. What exactly is livelihood? Is it a punishment? Is it a curse, which appears to be from the beginning of Chumash after Teitzei? Why is it so hard to pursue a livelihood? And then he has and how to make it a way of living and not dying for livelihood. How to make it a way of living and not dying for livelihood. And it goes through 5 steps based on Chassidus to how you deal with this. Starting crown, kesed, trust completely that the livelihood will come from God every day. 2, wisdom. Get the idea that livelihood is a test that you need to struggle hard to pass. 3, understanding. Understand all your livelihood comes to you through godly supervision. 4, emotions. Feel with your whole essence that God is the king of the world in an eternal way. And 5, kingdom, malchus. Do what you can do today. Live with the time. Very well done, very well annotated, and recommended to read. This and all other essays can be found at meaningfullife.com/mylife. And you have the archives and you have the essays. Some of the essays may be a little delayed in posting, so please bear with us, but they will be there. Essay number 2 for this week is Depression by Yehuda Ertel, Yeshiva Boys School of Pittsburgh, Brooklyn, New York. Clearly a teenager, I don't have the exact age. Depression, melancholy, dejection, he talks about scientifically and psychologically how it's such a malady, such a problem in our time and day and age. And then goes on, comparing all the psychiatric models of Freud, Watson, Rogers, they all follow a doctrine that states a person with depression is most likely missing something or has lost something. The Alter Rebbe takes a different view. Most people with depression don't necessarily have to be undergone traumatic experience. It's due to the Yetzer Hara, whose effort is to weaken our resolve in every possible way. And that's where it comes from. And he goes through a 3-part solution of the Alter Rebbe. One, first, always remember that you are here for a reason. Your very existence is proof of your worth. Number 2, remember that any trials and tribulations you experience are simply obstacles put in your way to test your mettle. And 3, remember that God cares about you and that he understands everything you're going through and shares your pain. And a well-done essay, and I commend you for that. And we go finally, the 3rd essay is a Hebrew essay. A Hebrew essay, working with adolescents instead of trying to change them. This is by Mendy Mishael El Malem, age 30, psychotherapist, Jerusalem, Israel. And here he deals with the issues dealing with teenagers and adolescents. The key point is harnessing them instead of challenging them or changing them. It brings the Rebbe's famous expression where he says that in physics, all energy doesn't disappear, it just changes form. The key is to harness the energy of adolescents and young people toward positive direction. We're not talking about changing anyone. And he brings a famous example of the hindik, which is the hen or the rooster, where a boy, son of a king, convinced himself he's a rooster. And no one could do anything about it until there's someone who masqueraded like he's a rooster with him, and through that, slowly got him back acclimated to being human. In other words, not challenging him, even though it was insanity, but rather focusing on harnessing it and on his terms, learning how to harness it into a positive. It elaborates on the system and then has a very comprehensive, what I would highly recommend with anyone dealing with these challenges of teenagers and adolescents, a real program here, how to deal with these challenges. So there we have the 3 essays, and with this we'll conclude MyLife, Chassidus Applied, episode 177. I want to wish everyone a ksiv v'chsima teva, a good Geben Sh'yor, should be already Shasa Geula, a Chedesh HaGeula, because Elul is also the Rosh HaTevos for the Geula. Again, this class was dedicated in honor of Risha, the newborn girl, to Chana and Beryl Garevich. And we're here every Sunday, except when it's Yontif, and we'll announce those beforehand when we are off, every Sunday, 8 to 9 p.m. Thank you very much. This has been MyLife, Chassidus Applied, episode 177.